Let me tell you the greatest poverty of all. It's not empty pockets, it's empty vision. A man with no plan, no discipline, no belief can waste 10 paychecks. But a man with philosophy, with strategy, with patience, can turn a single paycheck into freedom. Wealth begins in the mind long before it shows up in the bank. And poverty is not a mystery, it's neglect. The shift from struggle to wealth is a shift from ignoring principles to living by them. Discipline, patience, vision, these are not suggestions, they are laws. And when you obey the laws, wealth obeys you. So today, we're not just going to talk about money. We're going to talk about transformation. You'll learn why the smallest habits shape the biggest fortunes, why neglect robs more people than lack of opportunity, and why wealth is less about resources and more about resourcefulness. So lean in, because what you're about to hear could shift the way you think, act, and live, not just for a season, but for the rest of your life. You know, many people live their entire lives thinking that earning more money will automatically make them wealthy. But let me tell you something. Wealth is not created by how much you earn. It's created by the gap between what you earn and what you spend. I've seen people earn a fortune and still be broke because every dollar they received went out the door as fast as it came in. The truth is simple. If you spend every dollar you make, you have nothing to grow, nothing to invest, and nothing to protect. The moment you decide to spend less than you earn, you create a space for wealth to enter your life, a space that the universe can fill with opportunity and abundance. I remember when I first started in business, I had a very modest income. I was earning just enough to pay my bills, and yet I made a conscious decision to live below my means. I didn't buy the car I wanted or upgrade my apartment simply because I could afford it. Instead, I parked a portion of every paycheck into savings and small investments. It was uncomfortable at first. I had to resist the urge to join the crowd that spends to impress. But over time, that discipline paid off in ways that no temporary luxury could have. That small gap between income and expenses grew into an opportunity to build real wealth, because every dollar I saved could work for me rather than disappearing into immediate consumption. Creating this gap is not about deprivation, it's about vision. It's about understanding that every dollar you save today becomes a seed for your future freedom. When I speak to young people, I always emphasize that wealth starts in the mind and is executed in behavior. Saying I can't afford it is not negative thinking, it's intelligent planning. You are telling yourself, I value my future more than my fleeting desires. This mindset is the foundation for all financial success. Start small if you must. Save 5%, 10%, or 20% of your income and watch it accumulate over time. The key is consistency. The practical steps are simple but profound. Begin by tracking your expenses. Write down every dollar you spend for a month. You'll be amazed at where your money is going. Small, unnecessary purchases that add up to big leaks. Once you know where it goes, make a rule. Spend less than you earn. Automate it if necessary. Set up a system that takes a fixed percentage of your income off the top for savings or investments before you pay any bills. That is what I call paying yourself first. And don't fall into the trap of lifestyle inflation. When your income rises, let your savings rise first and enjoy the increase modestly. That's the subtle art of building a gap and allowing wealth to grow silently behind the scenes. Remember, the gap between income and expenses is not just numbers, it's a declaration of your discipline, your vision, and your commitment to future freedom. Wealth begins where your desires are tempered by foresight and your spending is guided by principle. Create that gap, protect it, and let it work for you. Wealth always starts in the space between earning and spending. Make that space yours. Many people believe that saving money is the ultimate goal of financial success. But let me tell you a truth that most never understand. Saving alone does not create wealth, it protects you from poverty. Money sitting idle in a bank account loses value over time due to inflation. The dollar you earn today buys less tomorrow if it is left untouched. True wealth is not measured by how much you have in your savings account, but by how effectively your money works for you. The secret to financial freedom is taking the money you save and turning it into investments, assets that grow, produce income, and multiply over time. I remember when I first learned this principle. Early in my career, I was diligent about saving. I tucked away a portion of my paycheck each month, thinking that accumulation alone would secure my future. It was a good habit, but it wasn't enough. I quickly realized that if I wanted to achieve financial independence, I had to make my money work harder than I did. So, I began exploring opportunities, stocks, small business ventures, and eventually real estate that would put my capital to work. Each dollar invested became an employee, producing returns long after I had stopped actively working. That is the essence of turning savings into investments. The philosophy behind this is simple. Money is a tool, and tools are meant to be used. Money that sits idle decays, but money that works multiplies. Every dollar you invest has the potential to create additional income streams, which can then be reinvested to compound over time. It's a cycle that the poor rarely understand. They save, but they never deploy. The wealthy, on the other hand, see savings as the starting point, not the destination. They understand that protection alone is not enough. Growth must follow. The strategy is clear. Protect your savings first, then allocate a portion to income-producing assets. Don't scatter your money haphazardly. Choose investments you understand, whether that's a diversified stock portfolio, real estate, or a small business you can manage. Start small if necessary, but start consistently. Over time, the compounding effect of these investments will far exceed the value of the original savings, turning a modest nest egg into significant wealth. Practical steps are straightforward. Decide on a percentage of your monthly savings to invest, perhaps 50% or more, depending on your comfort level. Study your options and understand the risks and rewards. Seek mentorship or financial education to make informed decisions. Track the performance of your investments and reinvest the returns rather than consuming them. And above all, be patient. Wealth rarely multiplies overnight, but the disciplined investor reaps exponential rewards over the years. Remember, savings are the seed, but investments are the tree. Without planting and nurturing, that seed never grows. Turn your savings into investments and let your money work as hard as you do. Then watch the compounding miracle unfold. Your money should not just sit there. It must work for you to create true financial freedom. One of the most destructive habits I have witnessed in people striving for financial success is the habit of spending money they don't yet have. The temptation is everywhere. Credit cards, buy now, pay later, offers, loans for consumer goods. Many believe that debt is a tool, but if used incorrectly, it is nothing more than a chain that ties you to yesterday's pleasures and steals tomorrow's freedom. True financial mastery begins with the discipline to never spend future money, to live within the means of what you already earn, and to resist the siren call of instant gratification. Let me share a story from my own experience. Early in my career, I watched people around me buy items they could not afford, hoping their next paycheck would cover the cost. They were proud of their possessions, the new car, the fashionable clothes, but I could see the invisible weight they carried. Each month, their money went to pay off the debt they had willingly created. Their wealth, their freedom, was being siphoned off before it even had a chance to grow. I realized then that financial freedom was never about how much you earned, but how wisely you managed what you already had. If you borrow to consume, you are enslaving your future self to pay for the pleasures of today. The philosophy here is simple. Debt for consumption is the fastest path to financial struggle. while saving and investing is the fastest path to financial independence. When you spend future money, you trade your long-term freedom for short-term satisfaction. Every dollar borrowed for unnecessary purchases is a dollar that cannot work for you as an investment, cannot compound, cannot create wealth. And the sad truth is, the poor rarely escape this cycle because they consistently substitute spending for planning, consumption for creation. The strategy to break this cycle is straightforward, but requires discipline. Live below your means, avoid loans for consumer purchases, and pay with cash whenever possible. By doing this, you begin to control your money instead of letting money control you. You must develop a mindset that values freedom more than fleeting indulgence. Treat every dollar in your hand as a seed, a tool to build your future rather than a ticket to temporary pleasure. Practical steps make this tangible. First, refuse to carry consumer debt. No credit cards for lifestyle spending. No high-interest loans for non-essential items. Second, create a personal budget that covers all necessary expenses and sets aside a percentage of income for savings and investment. Third, if a purchase tempts you, pause and ask, will this help me grow wealth or simply satisfy desire? Finally, track your debt-free progress monthly. Celebrate the small victories of saying no to immediate consumption and yes to financial freedom. The essence of this principle is that your future is far more valuable than your present indulgence. By refusing to spend what you do not have, you free yourself from invisible chains and allow your wealth to grow unencumbered. Remember, the person who masters the use of money in the present becomes the architect of their financial destiny tomorrow. Control your spending, honor your future, and your wealth will begin to build. One of the most overlooked principles in wealth creation is the mastery of small amounts. Many people dream of earning hundreds of thousands, even millions, yet they fail to respect the first $100 they ever make. The truth is, money magnifies behavior. If you cannot manage little, you cannot manage much. The journey to financial independence begins not with grand gestures, but with the disciplined handling of small amounts, the tiny seeds that, when nurtured, grow into great trees. Let me share from my own life. Early in my career, I earned very little, and yet I made a conscious effort to save and invest even the smallest portions of my income. While my friends spent freely, I placed a portion aside, however modest, and treated every dollar as sacred. That small discipline was the foundation for habits that eventually scaled into substantial wealth. Every large sum I managed later came with far less risk because I had mastered the behavior first with small amounts. The principle is simple. The habits you form with little will become habits with much. Wealth is not just a matter of income, it is a reflection of consistent behavior repeated over time. The philosophy behind this is clear. Respect is not only for the money you have today, but also for the money you hope to earn tomorrow. The poor, in contrast, often ignore small amounts, spending without thought, which ultimately teaches them to mishandle larger sums. The wealthy, however, understand that each dollar is a tool, a seed for future growth. They know that small disciplines repeated consistently compound over time into financial security and freedom. Mastery over small amounts creates the confidence, judgment, and control needed for bigger financial decisions later. The strategy for mastering small amounts is straightforward, but requires vigilance. Begin by tracking every dollar that enters your hands. Know where it comes from, where it goes, and why it is being spent. Save a fixed percentage of your income, even if it is small, and invest it wisely. Treat every transaction as a lesson in discipline, asking yourself, does this build my wealth or simply satisfy a fleeting desire? Over time, these decisions, though small individually, accumulate into significant financial power. Practical steps make this principle tangible. Start with your first $100. Save 10, invest 20, and spend responsibly. Keep a ledger to track every expense, no matter how small. Automate these small savings and investments so they become consistent habits. Celebrate the discipline of refusing small indulgences, understanding that each choice lays the groundwork for handling far greater sums later. The essence of this principle is that wealth is built from respect and mastery of small amounts, which teaches the habits required to manage more substantial resources. By learning to honor every dollar you earn, you create a foundation of discipline, judgment, and financial intelligence that no sudden windfall can replace. Wealth, in essence, is a reflection of character, and character is revealed in the handling of the little things. Respect the small, master the small, and you will be prepared for the great. One of the most critical lessons in wealth building, yet one often ignored, is the absolute necessity to protect your capital. Money is fragile. You can earn it slowly over years, but one poor decision, one reckless investment, one moment of impulse can wipe out years of discipline and effort. I've seen it countless times in my own life and in the lives of others. People work tirelessly, save diligently, and then they make a single unwise choice, a high-risk venture they do not understand, a loan they cannot afford, or a get-rich-quick scheme that promises more than it delivers, and suddenly all their progress evaporates. The rule is simple. Guard against losses with as much passion as you pursue gains. Wealth is not built by reckless courage. It is protected through disciplined caution. The philosophy behind protecting capital is this: every dollar you own is a tool for building your future. If you lose the tool, you lose the leverage that allows money to work for you. Rich people understand that wealth accumulates slowly and carefully, while poor people often gamble with it carelessly. Capital is sacred. It is the seed from which all future income and freedom will grow. Protecting it is not fear. It is wisdom, foresight, and respect for the process. The strategy to protect capital involves understanding every opportunity before committing a single dollar. Never invest in something you do not fully understand. Risk should never be taken blindly. Even seasoned investors maintain careful records of risk versus reward. They calculate worst-case scenarios, and they know when and how to exit. They diversify, they set limits, and they avoid impulsive decisions. One must treat money with the same seriousness a builder treats the foundation of a house. If the foundation crumbles, nothing else stands. Practical steps make this principle actionable. Before making any investment, write out a clear plan, identify the risk, estimate the potential reward, and define your exit strategy. Ask yourself, if this fails, how much can I afford to lose without destroying my financial base? Keep cash reserves for emergencies so that unplanned situations do not force you to sell assets at a loss. Regularly review your portfolio, assess exposures, and adjust allocations. Educate yourself continuously so that the decisions you make are informed, not emotional. Even small, repeated mistakes can add up, so vigilance is required in every transaction. I learned early on that protecting capital is as much a mindset as a set of rules. It's not about avoiding all risk, that's impossible, but about ensuring that the risks you take are calculated, informed, and manageable. Wealth grows when you consistently protect what you have while carefully pursuing what you seek. Losing control of capital is like tearing down a ladder while climbing it. You might fall from great heights. Guarding your money ensures you continue to ascend safely, steadily, and with confidence. Remember this: one wise choice preserves years of effort, while one careless choice can erase it all. Protect your capital ruthlessly, and every step you take toward wealth will be secure. One of the most powerful truths about building wealth is that your greatest asset is not in your bank account, it is in yourself. Money is important, of course, but it is only a tool. The real multiplier is the knowledge, skills, and mindset you develop. I have often said that you cannot outperform your personal growth. Your income will rarely exceed your own ability to create, solve problems, and bring value. This is why the rule is so simple, yet so profound. Invest in yourself before you invest in anything else. Knowledge and skills compound faster than money. $1 invested in understanding, in learning, in becoming more capable, returns far more than $1 placed in a stock or a property without preparation. Consider the philosophy behind this principle. The world rewards competence and creativity, not the size of your wallet at the start. Every successful person I've known, every millionaire, entrepreneur, and business owner prioritize personal growth above everything else. They read books, sought mentors, attended seminars, and invested in developing the skills that made them valuable. Money will come to the person who has something to offer. Skills create leverage. Wisdom guides decisions. If you invest in yourself, your earning potential expands in ways that no job, investment, or inheritance alone can provide. The strategy is to make personal development systematic and deliberate. Don't wait for free time or a windfall. Treat learning as a daily obligation. Schedule it as you would a meeting with a client or a class with a teacher. Identify the skills and knowledge most relevant to your goals and attack them relentlessly. Are you in business? Learn marketing, negotiation, and leadership. Are you in investing? Study financial statements, markets, and risk management. The key is consistency. Compounding knowledge requires repeated, deliberate action over time. Practical steps bring this strategy to life. Start by dedicating a fixed percentage of your income, say 5%, to personal growth. Purchase books, attend workshops, or hire a mentor. Spend at least 30 minutes each day reading or studying something that enhances your capacity to earn or make better decisions. Practice what you learn immediately. Knowledge alone has little value until applied. Network with people who challenge and inspire you. Keep a journal of lessons learned and strategies tested. Treat personal growth as an asset account. It grows and compounds, and unlike money, it cannot be stolen or lost if managed wisely. I have witnessed many people chase money without investing in themselves, only to find their wealth stagnates or vanishes. Conversely, those who prioritize learning, adaptability, and skill development see exponential returns. The irony is that it is often the poorest in knowledge who complain of being poor in money. To escape struggle and build lasting wealth, begin with yourself. Improve your mind, cultivate skills, refine habits, and watch as opportunities multiply. Remember this: money may come and go, but the knowledge, skill, and character you build are permanent assets. Invest in yourself first, and the world will invest in you. One of the most liberating truths in life is that you don't have to trade every hour for $1. Yet, so many people live as though their time is the only source of income, working tirelessly and wondering why wealth remains out of reach. The rule here is simple, but transformative. Make money work for you. Build assets that produce income without your constant labor. When money works harder than you do, freedom and opportunity begin to multiply. I've seen countless people trapped in jobs, exhausted at the end of the day, while their potential for financial independence remains untapped. The difference between working for money and having money work for you is the difference between a life of constant effort and a life of strategic abundance. The philosophy behind this principle is that your time is finite, but money can be multiplied infinitely if properly applied. A job gives you a living, but assets give you freedom. Income-producing assets, stocks that pay dividends, rental properties, businesses that run efficiently, or intellectual property allow you to earn continuously, even when you sleep. The wealthy do not rely solely on labor. They rely on systems, investments, and leverage. Money, when used wisely, becomes an employee, a servant, working tirelessly to generate more resources, allowing you to focus on growth, learning, and enjoyment. The strategy is to identify and acquire assets that provide consistent returns. Seek investments that align with your knowledge and risk tolerance. Start small, perhaps with a single dividend-paying stock, a modest rental property, or a side business. Learn the principles of cash flow, leverage, and compounding, and gradually expand. Avoid putting all your eggs in one basket, and always measure potential income against risk. Remember, the goal is not to hoard, but to deploy capital intelligently to produce ongoing returns. Each dollar you invest strategically becomes an engine of wealth. Practical steps are crucial to implement this philosophy. Begin by listing your current income streams and identifying where passive income can be introduced. Commit a portion of your savings, 10 to 20%, to investments that earn while you focus on other areas of your life. Automate reinvestment whenever possible so that profits themselves generate more profits. Track your assets, measure performance, and refine your strategy over time. Treat these investments as employees. They must be managed, monitored, and given the right tools to perform. Over time, the income generated by these assets can surpass the need for active labor, giving you the freedom to pursue bigger goals, deeper learning, or meaningful contributions. I have personally seen the transformative power of assets that earn without constant supervision. It's not about avoiding work. It's about working smart and allowing the systems you build to generate wealth on your behalf. When money becomes a servant rather than a master, you experience true financial leverage. Remember, your goal is not just to earn, it is to create engines of income that continue working long after you've stopped. Make money work for you, and your life will begin to expand beyond the limits of your time. One of the most subtle enemies of wealth is lifestyle inflation. You earn more, and somehow your expenses expand to meet it or even exceed it. This is a quiet thief, one that steals the benefits of your hard work while you remain convinced you are prospering. The rule here is simple but powerful. Let wealth grow quietly. Don't let expenses grow loudly. True financial freedom is not in the display of your earnings, but in the disciplined retention and growth of your resources. I've met people who doubled their income and doubled their spending, only to find themselves with nothing extra at the end of the month. The lesson is clear. Prosperity without prudence is fragile, and without humility, wealth is fleeting. The philosophy behind this principle is rooted in control and intentionality. When income rises, it's tempting to upgrade homes, cars, vacations, and lifestyles. Yet, every dollar spent on unnecessary upgrades is a dollar taken away from your future financial freedom. Wealth grows not only through what you earn, but through what you keep. Expenses that climb faster than income create invisible chains, making you dependent on ever higher paychecks and vulnerable to unexpected setbacks. In contrast, wealth-minded individuals maintain discipline, allowing their money to compound and multiply quietly, while their lifestyle remains manageable. The quiet growth of assets builds stability, confidence, and resilience. The strategy is to consciously separate increases in income from increases in lifestyle. Let your base lifestyle remain stable while new income flows into investments, savings, or business opportunities. Commit to a mental or practical cap on lifestyle expenditures, no matter how much your earnings rise. This requires self-awareness and discipline, as it's easy to rationalize upgrades as deserved rewards. The wealthy understand that true reward comes not from immediate indulgence, but from sustained financial security and growth. Practical steps make this principle actionable. Start by tracking all expenses and identifying where money is simply going to maintain appearances rather than add real value. When you receive a raise, allocate a significant portion, perhaps 50% or more, to investments or debt reduction, and allow only a portion for lifestyle improvement. Set goals for asset growth alongside your earnings and review them monthly to ensure your wealth is growing faster than your expenses. Create a rule for yourself. For every dollar increase in income, a majority goes into productive assets. Over time, these decisions compound quietly, building a reservoir of security and freedom that allows for true prosperity without the need for flashy spending. I've personally practiced this philosophy throughout my life. There were times when I could have indulged in luxuries immediately after earning more, but instead, I chose to reinvest, to save, to build systems and assets. The result wasn't just financial growth, it was peace of mind, stability, and the ability to pursue bigger opportunities without fear. The silent growth of wealth is far more powerful than the loud display of consumption. So remember, let your money work and let your lifestyle remain intentional. The quiet accumulation of wealth will provide freedom, resilience, and the ability to create true financial abundance over time. One of the most important habits that separates the wealthy from the struggling is the way they treat profits. Most people work hard, earn some extra money, and immediately spend it on what feels good in the moment. Dinners, gadgets, trips, or luxuries. This approach is tempting, but it's the exact opposite of what creates lasting wealth. The rule is simple but profound. Plant your harvest again before you eat the fruit. In other words, reinvest profits before indulging. If you eat the fruit first, you may enjoy a fleeting taste of pleasure, but you are starving the tree that could provide a lifetime of abundance. The philosophy behind this principle is rooted in the power of compounding. Wealth doesn't grow linearly. It multiplies when it's consistently reinvested. Every dollar you put back into productive assets has the potential to create more income, more opportunities, and more financial freedom. I've witnessed countless people earn substantial profits, only to spend them immediately, and then wonder why their financial situation never improves. On the other hand, those who reinvest first, who plant their harvest, allow the fruits of their labor to grow exponentially over time. Reinvestment transforms short-term gains into long-term security. The strategy is to consciously prioritize growth over instant gratification. The wealthy don't deny themselves pleasure entirely, but they make a deliberate choice to allocate a significant portion of profits to assets that generate more wealth. These might be investments in the stock market, expanding a business, acquiring real estate, or funding passive income projects. The idea is not to hoard, but to keep the money actively working for you before it leaves your hands for personal enjoyment. This approach requires self-discipline, vision, and a mindset that values long-term freedom over temporary satisfaction. Practical steps make this principle actionable. Start by tracking all profits, whether from a side business, investments, or salary bonuses, and decide in advance what percentage will be reinvested. Many successful people reinvest 50–70% of profits, leaving a smaller portion for lifestyle upgrades. Create a system where the reinvestment happens automatically, whether it's a recurring investment transfer, buying more inventory for a business, or funding new income-generating opportunities. Review the results monthly and let the compounding effect reinforce the habit. Over time, reinvested profits begin to grow faster than your spending, creating a snowball effect that accelerates wealth accumulation. I can share from personal experience. When I first started earning, I was tempted to indulge immediately, but I disciplined myself to reinvest a majority of my gains. Slowly, the reinvested amounts began to produce additional income, which in turn produced more profits, and before long, I had streams of income working for me independently. The habit of planting before harvesting changed everything. It created a financial foundation that provided freedom, opportunity, and resilience. Remember, wealth is built on the principle of reinvestment. Plant your harvest first, and the fruit will taste even sweeter because it will be sustainable, abundant, and capable of supporting your life for years to come. One of the most overlooked principles in building wealth is the art of delaying gratification. In a world that constantly tempts us with immediate pleasures, new gadgets, dining out, vacations, or the latest trends, most people are trained to satisfy desires instantly. Yet, the wealthy understand a different law. Trade short-term pleasure for long-term freedom. This isn't about denying yourself completely or living a life of deprivation. It's about exercising the discipline to prioritize what truly matters over what only feels good in the moment. The philosophy behind this principle is simple but profound. Life presents countless opportunities disguised as choices, and the decision to postpone a fleeting desire can unlock wealth and freedom years down the line. When you consistently delay gratification, you build self-control, patience, and a mindset that focuses on results rather than impulses. Wealth isn't an accident. It's the cumulative effect of small, disciplined decisions made day after day. Every dollar saved, every extra hour invested in learning, and every opportunity to grow assets instead of spending on momentary pleasure compounds into long-term financial independence. The strategy for implementing this principle is straightforward but requires vigilance. First, recognize the difference between needs and wants. A need sustains life and growth. A want is a temporary feeling that fades quickly. Once you understand this distinction, prioritize resources, time, money, energy, toward investments in assets, skills, and opportunities that create lasting value. Wealthy people make conscious decisions. They might delay a new car purchase to invest in a business, postpone extravagant trips to fund real estate, or resist luxury spending to grow a retirement portfolio. This mindset is not about punishment. It's about creating freedom and abundance in the long run. Practical steps bring this principle to life. Begin by creating a 30-day rule for all non-essential purchases. If you want something, write it down and wait 30 days before buying. Often, the urge will pass, and you'll save money that can be reinvested. Set clear financial goals like funding an investment account or growing an emergency fund, and link gratification to achieving milestones rather than instant indulgence. Reward yourself occasionally, but only when it aligns with progress, ensuring that pleasure is earned and sustainable rather than impulsive. Additionally, track your long-term vision daily. Visualize the freedom, security, and lifestyle that will result from disciplined choices. I can share a personal example. In my early days, I longed for the comforts of luxury and leisure, but I made a conscious choice to redirect much of my income toward investments and learning. I delayed spending on entertainment and material goods, knowing that each dollar saved or invested would multiply over time. Slowly but surely, those deferred pleasures created streams of income that eventually worked for me, providing freedom I could never have achieved by instant gratification. The discipline of patience, consistently applied, became a powerful engine for wealth. Remember, success doesn't come from fleeting indulgences. It comes from strategic patience. Trade short-term pleasure for long-term freedom, and you will not only grow your wealth, but also cultivate the mindset that ensures it lasts for a lifetime. One of the most powerful secrets to financial success is the discipline of building systems instead of operating in chaos. Many people work hard, earn money, and yet remain frustrated because there is no structure in how they manage it. Order multiplies, confusion diminishes. This is a principle as true for money as it is for life itself. Wealth grows when there is a system in place when every dollar, every minute, and every action has a purpose. Conversely, without systems, even large incomes can disappear quickly, leaving nothing but stress and missed opportunities. I have seen countless individuals earn substantial amounts yet live paycheck to paycheck simply because they never assigned a job to their money. Chaos doesn't create wealth, systems do. The philosophy here is straightforward. Money, like any other resource, responds to structure. When you assign roles to your income, whether for living expenses, savings, investments, or giving, it begins to function predictably. It becomes like a team of employees, each working toward a defined goal, multiplying results quietly in the background. A dollar left wandering, spent impulsively, or left idle rarely contributes to lasting wealth. But a dollar given a clear assignment becomes a tool for growth, capable of producing returns, generating opportunities, and creating security. This principle also extends beyond money. Time, energy, and focus need systems as well. The wealthiest people I've known didn't rely on willpower alone. They created routines, schedules, and financial structures that automated discipline and removed guesswork. The strategy is to map out your money's journey intentionally. Break your income into categories with distinct purposes: living, investing, saving, and giving. Living covers essentials and day-to-day necessities. Investing ensures growth, whether in stocks, real estate, or a small business. Saving secures your future and builds a safety net, while giving fosters contribution, generosity, and abundance. By giving every dollar a job, you avoid the trap of chaotic spending and position yourself to capture compounding benefits. The system doesn't need to be complex, it just needs to be consistent and followed diligently. Practical steps make this actionable. Open separate accounts or tracking methods for each purpose, and automate transfers each pay period so that your system runs without constant effort. Set clear percentages for each category. Perhaps 50% for living, 20% for investing, 20% for saving, and 10% for giving. Then adjust over time as your income and goals evolve. Review the system monthly to ensure alignment with your financial objectives and to make minor corrections before chaos creeps in. This habit transforms your approach to money, moving it from reactive and stressful to proactive and productive. I recall the early days of my own journey when my earnings increased but my spending habits had no order. I learned the hard way that without systems, wealth slips through the cracks. Once I established clear structures for every dollar, I watched not only my savings and investments grow, but also my confidence, clarity, and ability to make bigger decisions. Money started working predictably, compounding quietly, and I realized the secret wasn't working harder, it was working smarter with systems in place. Remember, chaos consumes, systems create. If you want your wealth to grow quietly and consistently, assign every dollar a job and let order do the multiplying for you. One of the most overlooked principles in wealth building is the extraordinary power of contribution. Many people focus exclusively on accumulation, believing that wealth is merely the result of what they can earn and keep. Yet the truth is far richer. Giving multiplies both wealth and influence. There is a profound law at work here, almost as certain as gravity. What you give away, whether in time, knowledge, resources, or money, returns to you multiplied. The universe, business, and human relationships respond to contribution. I have witnessed countless individuals grow, not simply because of what they kept, but because of what they shared. Those who hoard may survive, but those who contribute thrive, creating networks, opportunities, and goodwill that no amount of accumulation alone could provide. The philosophy behind this is simple. Wealth is not only financial, it is relational, intellectual, and social. Money, when hoarded, is static, but money and value that are shared create motion. When you teach someone a skill, mentor a young professional, donate to a cause, or invest in others, you are planting seeds. These seeds grow in ways that compound beyond dollars and cents. They build influence, credibility, and trust. I remember the early stages of my own journey when I focused purely on my earnings. I accumulated, I saved, I invested, yet I often felt a hollowness, a lack of fulfillment. The moment I began contributing, mentoring others, sharing ideas, giving back financially, the results were astonishing. Doors opened, partnerships formed, and my own wealth increased in ways I hadn't anticipated. Contribution doesn't diminish wealth, it attracts it. The strategy is to integrate giving into your financial and personal life deliberately. Don't wait for the perfect moment or for your bank account to be overflowing. Begin now. Determine a consistent percentage of your income, perhaps 5–10%, to set aside for contribution. This could be charitable donations, mentorship, or investing time in people and projects that create value beyond yourself. The key is consistency and intentionality. Contribution should not be haphazard. It must be deliberate, planned, and seen as a vital part of your wealth-building strategy. Practical steps make this philosophy actionable. Set aside a portion of each paycheck specifically for giving or contributing. Volunteer time with organizations that align with your values or mentor someone in your professional network. Share knowledge freely through workshops, content, or simple guidance. Track the results, not only in relationships built and opportunities created, but in how your mindset shifts. When giving becomes habitual, it reshapes your perception of wealth. You begin to see abundance, not scarcity. You realize wealth is not just what you keep, but what you set in motion for others. I have personally experienced the multiplying effect of contribution many times over. A small act of mentorship led to new business opportunities. A modest investment in someone's education returned tenfold in connections and joint ventures. The principle is clear. Wealth is amplified by giving. It is a law, not a suggestion. The more value you contribute, the more influence you command, and the more wealth naturally follows. Remember, accumulation alone is silent. Contribution multiplies. Wealth grows fastest when you give with intention and generosity. One of the most critical shifts in mindset for anyone pursuing wealth is learning to think in decades, not days. Too often, people live for the immediate moment, looking at today, this week, or this month. They chase quick wins, instant gratification, and short-term excitement, believing that success comes from fast results. But real wealth, the kind that changes lives and sustains generations, doesn't come overnight. It is the result of compounding vision, discipline, and action over years, even decades. I have seen people work tirelessly for decades, yet never accumulate meaningful wealth, simply because they measured their progress daily instead of planning long-term. True financial freedom requires the patience to plant seeds now, nurture them consistently, and trust that the harvest will come in its season. The philosophy is simple. Wealth is a long-term game. The laws of finance, like the laws of nature, reward patience, consistency, and foresight. Just as a farmer doesn't expect to harvest a field of wheat the day after planting, you cannot expect lifelong prosperity from short-term thinking. The wealthy understand this principle. They invest in assets that appreciate over time. They develop skills that compound in value. And they make decisions today based on where they want to be 10, 20, or even 30 years from now. I remember early in my journey, I was tempted by opportunities that promised quick profits. I jumped at them sometimes, but more often, I realized that the long-term vision required resisting immediate pleasure, the discipline to defer gratification, to plant seeds of wealth rather than consume them immediately, has been the cornerstone of lasting success in my life. The strategy, then, is to stretch your vision into the future and make decisions that align with your long-term objectives. Don't make financial choices based on impulse or temporary excitement. Instead, develop a framework. Ask yourself, will this decision improve my wealth 10 years from now? Whether it's investing in stocks, real estate, your business, or even personal development, let your choices be guided by their future impact, not by short-term satisfaction. Long-term thinking also creates resilience. You learn to weather temporary setbacks because you understand they are part of the journey, not the final destination. Practical steps make this actionable. Write a 10-year wealth plan today. Map out your desired financial position and set clear milestones along the way. Break that decade into annual, quarterly, and monthly objectives to ensure consistent progress. Track compounding growth of your investments, skills, and networks, and resist the urge to constantly cash out or divert attention to distractions. Automate savings and investments so that even on days when motivation is low, your long-term plan continues without interruption. Surround yourself with people who think long-term, who can challenge your short-term impulses and encourage discipline. Thinking in decades transforms your mindset. It turns small, daily actions into monumental, life-altering results. Wealth built with a long-term perspective is not just money. It is freedom, security, and the ability to leave a lasting legacy. The wealthy think in decades, not days. And that is the fundamental difference between fleeting financial success and enduring prosperity. As we come to the close of this conversation, I want you to understand something very simple. Wealth is not a matter of luck, timing, or connections. It is a matter of principle. The poor often struggle because they ignore these principles. The wealthy prosper because they embrace them. Every choice you make, every dollar you save, every skill you acquire, every relationship you nurture, these are the building blocks of your financial future. The question is not whether wealth is possible for you. The question is whether you are willing to live by the laws that create it. I have spent decades observing the habits of people who succeed and those who do not. And one thing is certain: success follows predictable laws. Money, opportunity, influence, they all respond to the same set of principles when consistently applied. Discipline, patience, contribution, long-term thinking, and the willingness to take responsibility for your life are not suggestions, they are the laws of wealth. You cannot escape them, and you cannot bypass them. The sooner you start living in alignment with these truths, the sooner your financial freedom begins to take shape. So where do you begin? Begin by deciding today that you will no longer be a slave to circumstance or fleeting impulses. Begin by controlling your spending, investing wisely, and making your money work for you. Begin by developing skills that compound in value, not just earning income that disappears the moment it arrives. Begin by creating systems that automate your wealth building so that you are not constantly trading time for money. Begin by thinking in decades, not days, and by planting seeds that will grow for years to come. Begin by contributing to others, because giving multiplies what you already have. Action is everything. Principles without action are like seeds that never touch the soil, they never grow. Take the wisdom you've heard today and apply it. Write down your goals, your financial plan, your vision of the life you want to create. Commit to studying, learning, and growing your knowledge of money and business. Set up systems for saving, investing, and tracking your progress. Surround yourself with people whose mindset inspires you, not drains you, And never ever underestimate the power of consistency. Small disciplined actions every day create results that seem miraculous in hindsight. Remember, the journey from struggle to wealth is not a mystery, it is a science. Follow the laws of money, follow the laws of personal development, and the results will follow you. Do not wait for the perfect moment. There is no perfect moment. Start now, start small, but start decisively. Your future is being written by the actions you take today. Choose to live by principle, act with discipline, and plant seeds that will grow into lasting prosperity. Wealth is not just a number in your bank account. It is freedom, influence, and the ability to leave a legacy. Make your choices today reflect the life you deserve tomorrow. The laws are clear, the path is open, and the opportunity is yours. Take the first step.